Okay, I'm going to make a little video to show you how to factor trinomials. They are the trinomials that are considered the easier trinomials when the coefficient is a 1, so that's the number in front of the x squared there. That's just a 1 when there's no number there. So this is the method. So instead of running through the steps, I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to do the steps. Okay, so what you do here is you make a little, I call it diamond, so it's kind of that diamond factoring that we were practicing. So you look at the last number and you put that up here. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to be the last number, and they're supposed to add up to be the middle number there. So you have to think a little bit about what two numbers could possibly work, and you'll eventually come up with 5 and 2, and then really once you figure out what those two numbers are, you can go immediately to the answer. In this particular one we can go x and x because that's the only way that you're going to get x squared when you multiply it out, and then the two numbers are a positive 5 and a positive 2, and that's your final answer. That's considered factored. Now the reason why that works is that if you were to multiply this out to check it, you would multiply the x times the x, which would be x squared. Then you would multiply the x times the 2, which would be 2x. Then you take the 5 times the x, which is 5x, and then 5 times 2, which is 10. Then you could combine the two middle terms. So we'd have x squared plus 7x plus 10. So check, it equals the same thing, so we know we factored it correctly. Next one. Okay, this one we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be positive 18, and they're supposed to add up to be negative 11. So we think about it for a little bit. We eventually come up with negative 9 and negative 2. So we immediately go to a double bubble there, and we put x, and then we just put minus 9 and minus 2, and that's factored correctly. Okay, this one we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 25, and they're supposed to add up to be negative 10. So after some thought, we would come up with negative 5 and negative 5. So those two numbers, we would just go right to a double bubble. I call them double bubbles with the two sets of parentheses. So x minus 5, done. Okay, this one we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be negative 40, and they add up to be negative 3. So that's negative 8 and positive 5. Let's make sure that works. Yep. So then we'd go right to our answer, and this is x minus 8 and x plus 5. Final answer. It's factored completely. Okay, this one, whenever you factor, you always want to take out the GCF. So we would start and we would notice that, hey, they have a 2 in common. Because otherwise this would be the little bit harder way to factor if there's a number other than a 1 in front of the squared term. So we take out a 2, and then we see what's left. And we're left with this. Then we can go ahead and apply our method here, and we look for two numbers that multiply to be negative 20, and they add up to be 8. So multiply and add. So that would leave us with positive 10 and a negative 2. So we would go right to a double bubble, and we'd have x plus 10 and x minus 2, and then of course we'd bring the 2 down so that when we multiply it all together it would actually equal the original polynomial. So that is the way we factor trinomials whenever there's just a 1 in front, or like this where we can take out the GCF. So hopefully that little 5-minute, well actually let me make sure there's not another one here that we need to. Okay, so this is the area of a rectangular garden, so I can take a look at this one. What are the possible dimensions of the rectangle? Well, we would look for two numbers that multiply to be 24 and add up to be 14. So the two numbers would be, let's see, that'd be 12 and 2. So that means we could go right to the answer, and that would be x plus 12, and that would be x plus 2. So if it's a rectangle, then one of the sides would have a length of x plus 12, and the other side would have a length of x plus 2. If the area is truly these two multiplied together, which would be the x squared plus the 14x plus the 24. Okay, so that should be good. 6.5 minutes.